The year 2001. The breach of the Pentagon security system. It sounds unreal, but history tells a different story. At that time, they had no idea their system could be hacked within hours. On that day, a hacker discovered something that would change his life forever. The wind wandered through the empty streets of Washington when, in one of the Pentagon's high-rise buildings, monitors suddenly began to flicker. The winter of 2001 was harsh, but the quiet beeping sound disrupted the usual calm of the night shift in the cybersecurity control center. At first, it seemed like a coincidence. One server failed, then a second. But when unknown queries began appearing on the screens, the operators realized it was more than a simple error. The early warning system for missile threats began to display strange errors. The alert protocol was activated for several seconds and then disappeared. Remote access to one of the satellites was temporarily blocked. This did not look like an ordinary malfunction. Information began to duplicate and distort, as though someone external was trying to dig deeper. John Rayner, the dispatcher on duty that night, nervously reviewed the access logs. His face turned pale as he noticed the first clue, an IP address that did not belong to any official U.S. station. He muttered that it might be actions by the United Kingdom. But, gripping the phone tightly, he added that they needed to wake everyone up because they had a serious problem. Within 5 minutes, all analysts were at their stations. On the large screens, they observed a strange pattern, an external access attempt probing deeper and deeper, as if searching for something specific. However, it was unclear. There were no signs of a professional hack, no viruses, no complex programs. It seemed as though someone was intentionally and methodically studying the system, looking for something. But what exactly? Thousands of kilometers away from Washington, in a small suburban town near London, a dimly lit room was illuminated only by the flicker of a monitor. The room belonged to a man whose workspace was cluttered with old computer parts, open books, and cups of unfinished coffee. That evening, he launched his favorite tool, a simple password bypassing script. NASA was his primary target. His fingers danced swiftly across the keyboard, inputting commands. Within minutes, he had gained access. He did not look like a typical hacker. His actions were not skillfully concealed, but every command entered into the system indicated great confidence. He knew exactly what he was looking for. The structure of NASA's servers appeared on his screen. As he navigated from one section to another, he felt as though he was approaching something significant. He thought to himself, could it really be this easy? They spend millions on security, but even I can bypass it. When he opened one of the files, what he saw shocked him. He exclaimed aloud, "This is it! They've been lying to us all this time." Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, the situation was escalating rapidly. Operators tracked that data was disappearing from servers. Not all of it, only selected information. None of the analysts could determine, based on the log decryptions, what the hacker was searching for. It seemed like someone was methodically reviewing military reports, space research, and classified documents marked "Do Not Disclose." Jack Kowalski, one of the leading agents who began the hunt, emphasized, "Whoever this is, they know exactly what they're doing. But this doesn't look like a typical hack." The fatal message. Among the stolen files, the intruder left a message. It was a short note that made all the analysts tense up. There were no threats, just mockery. "Your security is a joke. If I could get in here, so could terrorists. Seek the truth in your own archives." One of the operators asked why the hacker would leave a message. "Isn't that madness?" Kowalski, examining the text, thought aloud, "Maybe he wants to be found. Or maybe he's confident it's impossible." This was the hacker's biggest mistake. The message immediately drew the attention of the monitoring system. NASA and Pentagon operators raised the alarm. The more they studied the logs, the clearer it became. This was no ordinary hacker. He was after something very specific, though even the analysts could not discern what it was. The hacker, meanwhile, was downloading files when he suddenly noticed something had changed. The system began to react. He quickly disconnected, but the IP address had already been logged. When traces of the unknown hacker first appeared in NASA's logs, analysts assumed it was just another routine attempt at a breach. But with every hour, the scale of the event became evident. Data began disappearing from servers, as if being peeled away layer by layer. The stolen information included confidential reports on military experiments, space exploration, and something labeled cosmic. However, none of the stolen files were ever officially published. As the United States worked tirelessly to identify the perpetrator, the hacker erased his tracks and changed his IP address using an old proxy server. But even he knew it wasn't enough. He wiped his hard drive, deleted all programs, and even tried to physically damage his computer. For several days, he disconnected from the internet but felt fear and paranoia creeping in. At night, he thought he heard cars outside his house and constantly peeked out the window. One evening, speaking to himself, he whispered, "They'll find me. The question is how soon." But he didn't regret it, convinced people needed to know. At the Pentagon Cybercrime Control Center, a special task force was created. Analysts combed through every log and second of connection to NASA's servers. Jack Kowalski, one of the agents, noticed a peculiar pattern. Instead of masking his actions with complex viruses, the hacker behaved almost naively. There was no sophisticated strategy, just the use of basic scripts. Kowalski remarked, "This isn't a professional. He's an amateur, a brilliant one." Within days, they discovered all the hacker's activity was tied to British IP addresses. With cooperation from British authorities, they pinpointed the location, a quiet suburb on the outskirts of London. Early one morning, black vehicles pulled up to a small house. In the room, behind a keyboard, sat a young man. His face remained calm. Looking the agent in the eyes, he said, "I still don't regret it." He was 17-year-old Gary McKinnon, born on the 10th of February 1984 in a London suburb to a modest family. His father, James McKinnon, was an engineer at a local factory that produced electronic components, while his mother, Margaret McKinnon, was a school librarian. Gary had never been an ordinary teenager. His obsession with extraterrestrial life was extraordinary. He convinced himself that NASA's and the Pentagon systems held the evidence of something supernatural. Despite his arrest, most of the files he uncovered never saw the light of day. In court, the hacker hinted at a discovery that changed his worldview. "They have no idea what they're hiding. They've known about this for decades," he said. The files contained several layers of information. The first layer consisted of routine archives about Apollo missions, Mars exploration, and lunar studies. But among thousands of documents, he found a separate section marked, "Do not disclose." Among the initial documents were detailed reports of unidentified objects observed in Earth's atmosphere. These objects were described as anomalies, moving at speeds unattainable by any known human technology, changing trajectories without any visible engines or propulsion, disappearing from radar as suddenly as they appeared. Some reports included testimonies from military pilots who had witnessed the objects firsthand. Gary was shocked. Governments had known about UFOs for decades but kept it hidden from the public. Staring at the screen, Gary murmured, "This can't be real. They can't be stupid enough to leave this on the network." One of the most astonishing discoveries was photographs of unidentified crafts that could not have been made by humans. Among them were ships with smooth surfaces, glowing with a strange light, without visible seams or bolts. Massive objects photographed in Earth's orbit and even near the moon, and images of network anomalies, unknown structures detected by satellites. One file was labeled Vessel Number 17. The images depicted an object located near the moon's dark side. Its shape resembled a massive cylinder with rings emitting a strange blue-green glow. In another series of documents, Gary found mentions of a mysterious program called Solar Warden. This was a secret space program never mentioned in official sources. The documents detailed the creation of a fleet of spacecraft capable of operating beyond Earth's orbit, the use of technologies not characteristic of human engineering, missions aimed at observing other objects in the universe. This program was reportedly a joint project of several nations and existed outside the official budgets of space agencies. One of the files, which Gary described as the most shocking, contained a table titled The Black List. It listed individuals referred to as special participants. What was strange was that these names did not match any known astronauts or cosmonauts. Besides some names were notes such as, "Not of this world." Gary could not determine whether it was a joke or if these individuals truly did not belong to the human race. He exclaimed, "How can this exist?" Gary avoided extradition thanks to public pressure, but remained under house arrest. He never engaged in hacking again, yet his story became a symbol of human curiosity and an unrelenting desire to uncover the truth. Did he truly find something significant, or was he merely a victim of his own imagination? The answers to these questions remain hidden in government archives that we may never see.